Hi, I'm going to show you how to install Linux using the SUSE distro, so SUSE Linux. I'm going to put this into VirtualBox, so I'm going to download that now from Oracle's website. It's very straightforward. Just click on that, it'll download it, and then you can run it when you've downloaded it. Install is very quick. You can use VMware, you can use other virtual machine systems, but I've just chosen that for ease. I'm using this website just to encourage you to go to this and have a little look. They had one last year. They often have the best distro for the year. So I'm going to the OpenSuse version for this one. I'm just going to click on the link and then go and get myself a download. I'm going to download the whole ISO image because I want to install it as a virtual machine. So I've gone to Tools, Open Build Service, and that's where I'm going to be able to pick my SUSE Linux. I'm just going to pick a stable release. While I'm doing the installation, I'll show you the other menu items. So I'm going to choose a DVD version, as if I was going to write it to DVD or a large USB stick. You might want to see which is faster for you, but I'm just clicking, or I click direct link. It's worth reading the release notes and other areas of the download page just to make sure you understand exactly what you need to do. So as you can see, there's documentation, a wiki, videos, forums. Yeah, you go into this area and you have to search around. So back to the other menus, items, you can see the different areas, so it's quite good. And the next one I'm going to show you is it has the thing at the bottom, SUSE Studio, and that's an online image creation tool, which is quite good. And when you create those tools, you can say you want to have it placed onto your Microsoft Azure account or your Amazon account. We're going to download the whole ISO as said and then install it into VirtualBox. Very straightforward. So SUSE can be a little bigger than some of the other distributions, so you might want to have a little look at what your hardware is, what your broadband is, download the main Linux and then just add the packages that you really need, rather than make it bloaty. You don't want bloatware. Okay, so that Kiwi, while it's downloading, which takes a long time, I had a little look around at this SUSE Studio. I didn't do the full thing because I got back on to what I was supposed to be doing. So I had a little look while downloading, because even with fibre optic network it still took a while. So you click on SUSE Studio and it's really straightforward. I'll show you in a moment. But it is great for getting yourself a custom virtual machine. So I actually signed up to this. I might have a little look and complete the process a bit later, but at present I'm just going to have a little look around, click on a few screens, try a few things, and then I won't actually create the image at all. It's quite handy because you can actually deploy it straight out to your Azure, which as a student you can get for free for a time period anyway, so that's not too bad really. I think you can get that for about a year or two. There are Amazon accounts as well, but I think you have to give your credit card for those, so just take care really with those systems. I'm not sure if they've changed it since the last time I looked. So when you click, when you select to use this, you enter your display name, email. I don't mind putting my email on here. So yeah, I've just chosen the latest one, and I'm creating an appliance apparently. Okay, so that's the appliance name, and I'm going to go and click in on the software. Just that's what's going to go on there. So some of it might not make much sense, but just to give you a quick overview. So that's everything. 24,693 packages. Some of those packages belong to the same one tool, so you have to be careful. That's what's on the system. That one selected is what's already going to be on there by default. You can deselect them though if you don't want them. This one takes a little while, just thought I'd show you, it's nothing to worry about. And then these are the recommended packages. GIMP is graphical GNU image processing, graphics image processing, whichever way you like to see it, but it is originally a GNU program. So I'm just clicking popular items that I might use. As I said, it might be hard for you to know what some of these are, so you may end up going back to those later. So I'm clicking on Apache. I'm not actually going to do this installation because by the time I've finished messing about in here, my download will be complete and my installation will be ready to go. So I'm really just doing this to show you what you would end up doing if you logged on to that system instead of downloading the ISO. I don't know which one you would prefer, but it really is up to you. So yeah, I've just gone back to the menu having said OK, and the next stage would be to configure it, but it really is time now to go and deal with the fact that it's downloaded. So I can now copy and paste the file that's in the downloads into the place that I want to have my ISO images, and then I will set up my virtual machine, and my virtual machine will point to that ISO. There it is, and you can see how big the file is in the file size, so you know it's all right. Remember, you will need a spare disk. You couldn't put this onto a 4 gig, so you need an 8 at minimum to run this. It might be slow off a USB disk though to run it, but you can do it. So have a go at that. I'm just picking some random-ish figures here. I'm not really too worried what type of disk image, but a VM I'd prefer because you could copy it across and use it with virtual machine as well. VMware, sorry, instead of VirtualBox. That's just the name I'm going to use for it. So now you click on your machine, and that's when you start the installation. So now I'm going to choose my ISO image, which is on my data drive in the Linux ISOs area. Simple as that really. And then I'll get the option to install it, do various things really, you'll see in a moment. So installation, that was just saying that it's going to capture my mouse, my keyboard, etc., which it is doing. I'm using the arrow keys to go down to installation now. And that's how quick it is. I haven't edited that. It does take a while when it first loads up. Obviously it has to configure via the virtual machine. I just thought I'd leave this running so that you could see how long it took rather than cutting it out. I don't do a lot of editing. It takes too long. This bit's taken a bit of time, but that's understandable. Just closing things down while I'm waiting. So, fully read the license agreement. I'm sure you will. And then you can go and select it. Say you agree. So it's looking at what space you have. And that bit is where you're choosing repositories for your packages. So you want to have that already set up and installed. I'm not going to set up partitions. I would if I was setting up a server for business. I wouldn't have everything on one disk. But in this case, I'm just leaving it all to the one disk because I'm using a virtual machine in this simple installation that I'm doing. So I've selected where I am. It's setting up the online repositories. I'm not really putting the other ones on there. Sign the agreement. Again, read all of this to make sure that you're happy with what you're doing. As I'm just putting this into a VirtualBox, I'm not looking too deeply at those terms of agreement and so on. So again, I'm leaving this to run rather than cutting it out, just so you can see how long this bit takes. So I'm choosing the KDE desktop instead of the GNOME desktop. It is up to you really. You could try both and you can configure the other one later. Some purists like to use GNOME, which is the original, or one of the originals, and KDE came a little later. I do like my fancy interfaces, even though I spend a lot of time in the shell on the terminal windows. I still like to have a nice interface. Silly, I know, but if you're on server, if you don't have an interface, it doesn't matter. So that's what's being installed, and I will go back later and I will install a few more things. Not many things, just Apache, MySQL, PHP and the GNU-C compiler. I always like to have a C compiler. I think it's quite useful when you're downloading files that need to be built. So this is the installation. It wasn't that quick, by the way. I have edited those bits to reduce the video time. Just showing you a few things from the slideshow that you get while the installation takes place. But normally there's about 20 or 15 minute gap between those. It's quite a long gap. I just thought I'd show you the tab where you can see the detail of the install. Again, I've really sped this up by cutting things out of the video. So that's obviously the release notes. You might want to read through those while the installation's taking place. So reboot, and now we'll get a chance to run SUSE Linux. You can see it showing in the virtual machine there on the right what's actually happening. So I need to boot from the hard disk, and that means the virtual disk that's been created using VirtualBox. And it's now opening. So OpenSuse Leap 42.1. Wow. So this is the first time I've seen this. This installation video was made on my first run of the installation, so it's not polished, I'm afraid. This is literally the first time I've done this install for many years in terms of SUSE Linux. But I wanted you to see what happened. Now, had I had a server installation, not a desktop, I would have logged in at that console that you saw a few seconds ago. Instead, it's starting up the KDE interface for me to use. It's logging me straight in as well, just to be kind. You could change that. It's a bit like on the Mac, where you can have it automatically log you straight in. It's logging in as Eagles, which is what I selected, just to keep it short and sweet for this demonstration. So you can see I get some plain old directories there, a start menu with a whole pile of things by default. Scroll up and down there and just see what you have really. So the first thing, I always like to check the internet's working to make sure that VirtualBox is supporting my access to the internet. I don't want any driver problems. So VirtualBox has improved in that it does support things without you having to mess about really. So I'm on, I've got Firefox running there, but I'm just showing you some of the other menu options that you have. I'm going to go to Google just to show you Google's working. Obviously I'm not checking Google, but that I can access Google. And then this is just a random comment to say I'm testing this running via VirtualBox, just to test it out, make sure it comes back with a list. But you could see there would have been some help had you needed it. So the next thing I'm going to do is look for the shell. I like the shell. It's called Xterm. So I've got to go and find that. There is one that you can use where it logs you in as super user, and there's also just an ordinary one for you as a user. If you don't choose the super user one, then certain things you might have to log in as the super user anyway. So you can either do su and enter the password, or sudo, so super user do. So I've just listed the contents of my default directory ls. I'm now making a little file by echoing in quotes hello, using the greater than sign, which filters it into a file. That's made me a file. You can't double click it because it didn't know what the format was and what application to use to open it. Not really that clever, but then you can't expect it to with no extension like you would use in Windows. So that's the file that I created on the command line. I'm now going to just again show a few things, and then I'm going to start testing. So I'm assuming that the GNU compiler is not on here. I'm going to just make myself a little test file. VI, the editor, is on every Linux and Unix installation, no matter what it is. It's the default editor. It's not everyone's favourite editor. but I'm so used to it that I just can, well, I'm just so used to it, so it's easy for me to use. But a lot of people struggle with it because you have to keep pressing escape to go in command mode and I to go into insert mode. It's not that bad, and you have to use certain keyboard characters to do various tasks. But you can see test.c has now appeared. I'm trying to use the wrong compiler at first, but now I'm using GCC. Obviously that's not there, so it's not going to work, which I expected. So now I'm going to go into my main menu, and while I'm there I'm going to check for the other things as well. So I'm going to check for Apache, MySQL, PHP. None of that will be installed because it was a desktop installation, so not really designed for developers. Some systems come with some basic development, but not all. I think mainly where they need to build packages do they actually put the GNU compiler, but I think nowadays they don't, especially on desktops. So none of those are there, it's just returning me grep, which is searching inside. So I'm doing PS process. EF was the everything and full description, and then I was piping the output from that as input into the grep command, and that was going to search for those words that followed Apache MySQL. So I've got to log on as root now to do the next thing, because as super user I can install software. So I'm now going to install some software. I'll cut a little bit out so it's not too lengthy. I'm first looking for Apache. There it is. I'll put a few other bits with that I remember that I have to do. I may need to go back to that in the future and add some more items, but you would know, because when you do certain development you will often find an error message saying something's missing, and you can come back and just install it quite easily. So that's just an example really for this demonstration of installing, say for example for Apache. Okay, so that's what I've just installed. That's a summary, and then I'm going to go back and pick my next choice, which is to add the C compiler, and that's what I'm going to get by default. I could actually choose more things from the list. Like you've got an Ada compiler, 32-bit version of it, C++, all sorts of different compilers there, and then you just select those and let it install them. It's going to download this from the repository and then install them onto the system. Installing onto Linux is quite straightforward because there is no registry. The files are just placed in certain locations on the disk. So you've got in the root you've got bin and sbin and all sorts of other places where the binary executables are placed, and then you've got all the configuration files in /etc and other places as well. So there is no registry, they're just all files. So I'm now looking at MySQL. I'm going to try and just get myself a nice LAMP configuration. Linux, Apache, MySQL and PHP. I'm not doing it all perfectly because I'm not actually going to use this system, as already mentioned. Not that I'm against it. I think I said that as well. Just because I just want to go and try out the others. I do tend to use quite a simple system. I like Linux Mint when I'm recommending it to others who are more Windows based. SUSE might be a good one in that respect as well, so that they're quite comfortable using the environment, not always having to go onto the terminal. But I'm quite happy with things like Debian and Arch Linux or Arch Linux, whatever you want to call it. So it shows you there the preview, which takes a little while, and just a little reference to these other Linuxes. You can get yourself a very clean, stable build, and then that's very quick to download, it's very tidy, and then add the things you want to. But there are so many other options nowadays as well. There are a lot more than what's on this list. Some used to be highly popular and they're less popular, but I think that's for the majority. You still have your enterprise Linux systems that organisations use. Ubuntu's quite good. I used to have problems with that on my laptop, but it seems to have improved dramatically over the years. I think in 2006 I had problems with graphics adapters, but I think since the Raspberry Pi and the mobile devices as well, and home automation, it's been quite, a lot of work has gone into this. So you have all these different distributions, not just to have an alternative, but for different purposes as well. Yeah, so a nice small mobile Linux. Anyway, so it looks like it's done. I left that to run so I could just do a quick overview of some of the other Linux distributions. I'm now doing grep, so ps-ef, and all of that will need to be started up. So in the case of OpenSuse, it didn't start them up. Now I shouldn't have grepped for httpd because it is Apache 2, but not to worry. So the first thing I'm actually testing is the easy thing, which is the C compiler, GCC. I'm putting a new line there. I should really put a little bit more in there, but not to worry. You'll see it working. So you can see test in green, and that was the binary executable. So now I'm going to look at, I was just checking to see if MySQL had installed, by the way. I'm now looking at the services, which is a bit like what you get on Windows services. I'm just activating and enabling Apache and MySQL. And then I will go and have a look at those using ps-ef, grep, Apache 2, and then the same for MySQL, just to look at the processes. I'm going to then have to look up setting the password for MySQL, because it's been a little while since I've done that. But that's another thing. You don't need to remember absolutely everything. You just need to know what you're looking for and where to go. Now OpenSuse and, well, many places on the World Wide Web actually have help and support for Linux commands. So here I've remembered it was service Apache start, and then I've looked for Apache, and you can see many daemon processes are running there, which is good because it starts off with a number of daemon processes to deal with client requests. Now that's the default page. There doesn't seem to be a default index HTML or PHP, so the next job is to find where the heck they put the files. They're not the same everywhere. In this case, document root is in /srv www.htdocs. Now I found that by going to /etc apache 2 apache 2 conf.d. So anyway, I'm now in the area where the websites are by going to cd /srv www.htdocs. you can see PHP-MyAdmin's been put in there automatically, and there isn't an index, so I'm using echo to create myself a file called phpinfo.php just to run the function which checks the installation of PHP. pwd is useful for print working directory. So I'm now running my PHP file, and there it is. And just to prove that it actually is my file, I'm going to re-edit that script, that PHP script, and just put in a little extra message there at the top, just to say, you know, display to the screen, echo, this is a test from me, Elaine Eagles. I was going to put EE, but that could be confusing with the mobile phone company. So, right, so you'll see now that that is actually the file. You would obviously want to set it up so users can use their own directories instead of the main web server's directory. So that's something to explore, and that's the topic of another video, which is focused on setting up the web server, where some of this will be repeated again. So that's just pointing out where you need to look. So as for MySQL, well, you need to see that running, which it is. User sbin mysqld, the daemon process, but you can't log on to it, so we're going to use phpMyAdmin just for a moment to go and try and log on to the MySQL server. And by default you have the root password, but it won't have a password set. So I say we don't have a login, what I mean is we don't have the password set. So go to the forum like I did to remind myself. It has been quite a while since I've done this, but now it's back with me again. I can just do it from the top of my mind actually now, but I haven't actually set up manually for a couple of years the MySQL system, so that's the password, and then this is just entered because I haven't entered a password before. I'll try it again. This time I've put enter. I did the wrong password there. But never mind, these are the things you do when you first set it all up. So that's working now. So I've got my GNU compiler, I've got my Apache web server, which we're using as we speak with, or as I speak, with the phpMyAdmin running. So yes, that did take a while. It would have taken longer if you'd seen the whole video. I've spelt Apache wrong, sorry about that. But once you have all of these things working, you should be able to make some web pages. So, good luck finding your way around Linux. Have a little look at Susie. You could always remove it later if you're not keen. Sorry about the quality. I'll try my best to improve in time. I just don't have a lot of time, but good luck and have fun finding your way around Linux. There'll be more videos coming soon. Thank you.